welcome to Samasta TV, where we interview incredible and interesting people all over the world who are experts at different subjects that actually impact our health in many different ways. Today, we are grateful to have Susan Wahhab. Susan, how are you?
Good. How are you, Andres?
Doing wonderful. So Susan is a certified CPA. She's actually an expert on self-managed superannuation funds. She's an entrepreneur. She's a working mom, business supporter, and she's actually Australia's leading financial strategist and money mentor. She is the founder and managing director of an accounting financial firm called Winner Partnerships. She's actually the author of a transformational book, and it's so practical book called Money Intelligence. Susan is passionate about helping people achieve financial liberation. When she was 6 years old, she witnessed how her money-savvy mom, whom she calls the money manager, actually joined forces with her dad, whom she calls the money maker in her book, to save the family business from bankruptcy and becoming financially free. And so the cool thing with Susan is that she truly believes that people can become financially liberated by developing a healthy relationship with money through the art of balancing the money and spirituality. So we're so happy that you're here today. And Susan, we're going to talk about all kinds of interesting subjects and see how much money has a big impact on health.
Yeah.
You know, most heart attacks happen on Mondays out of all the days in the week. So, you know, work and stress and money has such a big impact on that. So tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah. So my story started about 40 years ago. I actually, talking about health, you know, as my parents were fighting over the money, as my dad got himself in a lot of trouble in his business because he was running two businesses. We used to live, we did not live in Australia at the time. We were living in Ramallah in Palestine. And my dad had his bread run business, which was based in Jerusalem. And also he had a shop in Ramallah where we used to live. And my mom was at home. She was 25 years old. She just had her fifth child, you know, 5 children in about 6 years. And my dad was building these two businesses. You know, he had a friend of his who was running the shop while he was building this bread run that he came up with, you know, a few years back. And as he's grown the business, he entrusted the shop to a friend of his who was mismanaging the business. And my dad was pouring money from his bread run that was making money into the loss shop. A lot of businesses end up doing these things. You know, you start something, you build something in your business, make money, and then you start something else and that might not make money, and then you pour the money from profit side of the business to the losing side of the business, and you just keep down that spiral like a you know, someone who goes to the casino. You just keep pouring money. And that's what happened with my dad. He kept pouring money. He ended up always being short to pay the bread run, to pay the bread company, the bakery. And he was so short with the money that by 1975, and I was 6 years old at the time, my dad was owing the bread bakery over $500,000 in today's money. This is equal to today's money. That's a lot of money 40 years ago. And basically, my family was struggling. My mom would count the money when my dad brings the cash from selling the bread, dumps it on my mom's dressing table. And when my mom counts the money, it was always short. He didn't even have enough money to pay the days before bread that he bought from the bakery. And so my parents were always fighting, and I grew up hearing their fighting about it. So by the age of 6, I was insomniac. A 6-year-old, not being able to sleep, wondering what was going to happen to a family. I knew something was wrong. There was always, where's the money? Where did you go? My parents were always fighting. And my mom was stuck at home with, you know, 5 children, you know, between the age of 6 months to 6 years. So within this background, you know, I grew up always worried about money. And a lot of people who have their own small business, you know, they kind of, you live that on a daily basis, no matter how much your business grows, because as a small business, this is what you end up having to deal with. You know, it's not like, you know, big corporations, they've got lots of money, making billions to the shareholders. So I actually grew up, until now, I have that kind of insomnia. You know, I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about my own business. So I took that into my business when I started about 20 years ago. And I remember when I started my business, you know, I was not having enough sleep time. And my insomnia continued. And I know that being worried about money, you know, and I made mistakes in my business in the beginning that could have cost me the business. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. You know, I put on weight, let's say. You know, I developed back pain. And, you know, not being able to come up with solutions, financial solutions to solve your business problems would impact your health. So, you know, I remember when these things have changed for me. So the first 5 years of my business, I actually struggled until I met my mentor, who actually passed away about 13 years ago, but he gave me good business advice. And that turned my business around. And I changed the way I looked at myself and looked at my business. Even though I'm an accountant, you know, I've got all the financial knowledge in the world, you still need that financial, you know, financial and business advice, you know, someone to mentor you, to coach you, to get you through things. And his advice helped me to turn my thinking around. It was the first thing that happened to me to change my health and my personal finances and improve my business was my change of my mindset. And you know, I was like feeling like a victim in this business. I can't make any money. Where's the money gonna come from? Same as what was happening with my family, with my parents. How are we gonna pay off this debt? But I actually started with, when I started to change my thinking, I started to think I need to pay myself. And I started with paying myself and saving $50 a week. I remember $50 a week back in September 2003. That's how I started to change my mindset. I had to do a step, which is, let's save some money aside so that I don't feel stressed, that I don't have enough money sometimes to pay the wages, you know. And that $50 a week started building up. So the second quarter, I would increase to $60 a week, and off you go until I started building up and being comfortable to have that money set aside. Now, going back, so that has completely changed my thinking, changed my habits. I saved that money, bought myself a house. It also helped me, motivated me more to be in my business, because I could see that my business was helping me to pursue and to fulfill my personal goals. There's no use having a small business, you know, having that lifestyle, etc. But it does not, and you know, it's great, you know. In my case, I leave work at 5 o'clock. I don't have to answer to a boss. I go pick up my son. You know, I have that kind of work-life balance. But also your business has to help you to balance your personal goals. You know, you want to buy a house, you want to pursue your own personal goals in terms of traveling, or even to secure your own retirement in the future. Because I don't know about you, but I don't know where the past 20 years have gone. And I was a sexy 28-year-old 20 years ago, and look at me now.
And Susan, and so taking all that story that you're mentioning now, what is it that you want to accomplish?
Yeah. So what I want to accomplish is to help people have peace of mind. I grew up not having any. From the age of 6, I had no peace of mind, and I could see that that impacted my family. We were on the brink of bankruptcy, but if it weren't for my dad's friend who gave him good advice, he came to I remember him coming to our shop and gave good advice to my parents about them joining together. And he said to my mom, "You're a good money manager. You can manage your husband's finances and help him in his business." And he told my dad that you're good with making money, so your two skills need to come together. The money manager and the money maker need to come together to save this business. It took my parents about a week to make the decision that my mom would end up running the shop with 5 children under 6. It was not easy. I went into gear helping my mom with, folding the clothes and washing the floor and putting the clothes on the line. By the age of 10, I was cooking. But that helped the family to survive. And my parents managed to pay off that debt within 5 years. And then they used the next 5 years to save and build their own home. So what I took from that, and that's my family story, and I did the same thing. It happened to me in my business. I did the same thing. I struggled, and then I got a plan. I got mentored. I changed my mindset, saved for my own investments, got myself into a good financial situation, and now I want to give back. I want to tell people that you can do it. Whether you got your own business or you want to set up your own business or you work for someone, you need to focus on your finances and you need to have a buffer. I believe that you need to have reserves because, as you know, anything could happen. I see a lot of people living off credit cards rather than having a reserve money in a savings account to put aside. And my philosophy is you got to put aside 6 months of your household expenses aside for emergency, because people can lose their business or you lose your job and you need that money to be there ready to go. If you have any money saved in reserve, I don't think you would be waking up in the middle of the night worrying about money.
You're so right. You're so right about that.
And when you don't worry about money, it does not impact your health. You don't end up with a back problem like I did. Actually, I remember my face used to break out. I would have like zits, every time you have a client meeting, I would like, oh. So your whole perspective on life changes because we have to really get real. Everything that we do in our modern life needs money. You can't go anywhere without having to pay money. So, you can't just walk into someone's garden and say, I need your mangoes.
You're
so going to go
right.
pay for it.
You're right, Susan. Here in Hawaii, a little bit, people do.
So we need to learn finances, and I see that a lot. Hey?
I say here in Hawaii, people do share the mangoes and the oranges a little bit.
I'm coming.
But you're right. We need. I mean, it makes it's a form of. It gives us options and
exactly.
You're right about being related to health. One of the leading causes of bankruptcy in the world is healthcare bills, and so.
Yes.
So, these two things go together. People are not expecting the sickness. And so, Susan, whenever you said, okay, I'm going to start my business and you went going, what was the first problem or what was the first wall that you hit when you started this journey?
Actually, the first obstacle I had was when I worked out how much I need to set up the business. I remember I worked out my budget and I remember at the time I needed $15,000 Australian dollars. So I actually went to the bank to ask for an unsecured loan. And one of the largest banks in Australia, that's one of the largest banks in Australia, the bank manager said, the bank officer said, I'm sorry, I can't lend you unsecured money to start your own business because what guarantee do I have that you're going to pay it back?
Right.
And I remember he kind of laughed at me saying, where are you going to get your customers from? I haven't seen any female accountants have their
Wow.
own practices. So at the time, 20 years ago, there were hardly any female accountants who had their own business. You could have been a partner in an accounting firm, or you would work in an accounting firm, but not to run your own show. Now it's common. A lot of young girls actually start their own businesses now, lots of Generation Y or millennials. But when I started, there were hardly any. So the first obstacle I had was the bank said no. And I had to, I didn't want to use my parents' house, or, they didn't have any money at the time. And I could not ask them to secure their own home. But in the end, my parents offered their home to
Wow.
secure their home so I can get a $15,000 business loan to start my business. That was the first obstacle.
You did it. You did it.
I did it. Yeah,
You found
my
the way.
parents are the most amazing parents you could ever, wish for. And that's why I wrote the book, and I wrote the book about them. The story is about them and and their business knowledge and sense, and how they, joined together to build a good business. So, they deserve to be, exonerated.
Right, right,
Um,
right, right, right.
yeah. The second obstacle I had was finding customers. I left the corporate world and was working for accounting firms. I couldn't find anyone, and, I had to use my network. I started networking with other business networks in Australia. I also started like you put flyers in people's, post letter box. So that's how I started.
Wow,
One
and
client at a
then
time.
one client at a time.
Yes.
That's a great story. And then when you were going and when you started, what was one of the early epiphanies that you had, or early insights about what was
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. I got into business with a financial planner at the time. I wasn't a financial planner at the time. I was just an accountant. I went into business with a financial planner to create a finance company to lend money to people, to find them homes and lend them money for their own home loans. The epiphany I got was you should not go into business with people you don't know much about. Yeah, I lost money. She embezzled the money. So I had to
Wow.
go and ask my parents to increase the business loan, the $15,000 business loan, to
Wow.
increase it to $40,000 because I lost money, because I made rash decisions thinking I'm gonna go big with this business. It could have gone big actually. So that was a couple of years into my business. It could have gone big if this person had ethics, but sadly, not everybody has got the same values as you. So my epiphany is you need to go into business with people have got the same values, and they understand what a moral thing to do. People can do legal things, but not moral, and there's a big difference.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. That's
Yeah.
an awesome insight. And so then when you realized this, what was your plan to bounce back? How did you do it?
Well, the plan was I need more money. So I asked my parents to increase the business loan. So I got it to 40,000. And, I was always short of my $40,000 limit on my loan for years, $1 short until I built up the business. So my plan was to recover from that mistake and build up the business more. So, I was at a point where I was going to give up, but every time I gave up, I could not bring myself to close shop and go back and work for someone. It was like I already burnt the bridges and I'm not going back. It was, your mind plays with you, like,
Mhm.
you got to go the easy way.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, there's no easy way in business.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I looked at the pros and cons of going back to work for someone. I could not bring myself to go and work for someone.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's an amazing story. And then when you were doing that, and when you were already creating that plan and trying to get the clients, and you got the second loan, what was another conflict that you encountered?
Um, Getting the right customers, that would have the same values as me. At the time, I remember it was just when all this happened with this business partner. It was just after the tech crash, the year 2000
Mm-hmm,
tech crash.
mm-hmm.
I had a lot of clients in IT at the time, and
Wow.
they were getting funding from fund managers, from private equity firms. And when the tech crash happened, the funding ended, and I remember losing 3 tech business clients. We were doing their accounts, and they were growing, and then they disappeared overnight, and I did not get paid my fees.
Wow.
And the biggest lesson I learned from that was that you gotta diversify your business income. So that's when I decided to expand my services and go from just doing accounting work to taking on other services. So as an accounting firm now, we are what we call a financial services firm. We are no longer an accounting firm only. So we provide accounting, financial advice, superannuation, which in America, superannuation in America is like the 401k. So
Mm-hmm.
it's retirement advice, insurance advice. We also provide loans for clients. So we diversified our investments, that if 1 or 2 or 3 clients walk out the door tomorrow, my business is not, yeah, it could kind of shake,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually what happened for us last year. We've had a few clients either retired, sold their business, or went elsewhere. And a 10% change in the business sales could shake could shake me 20 years ago, but it's not going to make me close my business just because you lose 10% of your business. So that's one big lesson I would advise to any person who is running their own business. You gotta diversify, and the diversification has to be within like kind of be related to what you're providing.
Gotcha,
uh,
gotcha.
and sometimes, let's say someone like in the health industry like yourself, it could be diversifying in terms of selling some health products, where you have that extra income coming in, or what we call the cream, that you could put aside. So there's nothing wrong with having different businesses or side hustle, what they call it now, side, your generation, you guys call it a side hustle.
Right, 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 right. And so, Susan, what have you achieved? What have you achieved?
The past 20 years, I've grown my business to a point where, I have that work-life balance. So I've got 5 people working for me. I don't want to increase it or build it more. From my perspective, it's not about more. It's about really helping people to achieve their goals. So I don't intend on getting more clients if I can't service the ones I have and get them to get to a point where they are financially secure. So that's the reason why I sat down and wrote the book 3 years ago. When I sat down and wrote the book about money, I wanted to write it for my clients, because I'm not sure what it's like in the US, but because, in Australia, we're a bit laid back, laid back. um, People earn good money, and it's a affluent country. The average earner can earn $60,000 a year, which is one of the highest income earners in the world, per capita GDP, whatever it is that you call it. But people are not being smart with their money. You spend all that money that you earn, and then you don't have anything to show for it 20 years later. So I wrote the book after seeing my clients after 10, 15 years of seeing the same people year over year. They are not securing their financial retirement. They're not saving aside. They're thinking, I'm going to rely on the government for my retirement. And so the reason I wrote the book was to help them to get to a point where they can achieve financial independence. And the other thing is, because a lot of my clients are small business, they are fighting fires in their business without thinking about the long term. A lot of businesses, especially in Australia, they think, I'm gonna build up this business, and then when I'm 60 years old, I'm gonna sell it, make some money out of it, and live off that money that I'm gonna sell this business from for my retirement. I think that's a big risk. You're putting all your eggs in one asset, in only your business that relies on you, and anything could happen in that 30-year period. So my philosophy for my clients that I've wanted to impart in the book is, you got to diversify your investments. Yes, invest in your business, build your business, but also at the same time, think about, I need a share portfolio somewhere. I need to have an investment property somewhere else, that you're not just focusing on that business and putting all your eggs in one basket. So what I want to do is help people to achieve financial independence and help them secure their business, like business income. A lot of small businesses end up getting by. You spend all this effort, all this energy in your business, and you want to get by, just to get by, as in pay your bills, pay your rent, and then you've got no backup. You've got no backup money in your business account. It's like you're living on a thin line, and anything could happen. It could be a lean year next year. Something could go wrong in the economy. You don't even have any buffer, any reserves in your business. So I want to share with, especially small business people, you gotta have the buffer. You gotta build up your investments outside of your business. You gotta diversify, and you gotta get smart with your money. We spend, people like in your industry, you spend a lot of time and energy on getting fit and being healthy. You eat good, nutritious food. You go to the gym, or you have a personal trainer and you train every day. But a lot of people don't look at their finances in that way. You don't kind of look, oh, let me have a look at my nutrition plan, your goals plans, your money plans, your money goals. That should be your nutrition. My nutrition plan, my goals for the year, for my income. They also don't do their daily exercise when it comes to their finances. And the daily exercises, you gotta manage your money. You gotta track your expenses. You gotta look at your accounts. You got to enter your accounts in a good accounting system where you can, at the end of the month or at the end of the week, you look at your profit and what I call profit and loss statement. That's money in, money out. How much money did we make this month? How much expenses were the expenses? Did we make a profit? Are we behind? Are we in the negative? So all these things should be part of your financial fitness regime, the same as someone in their health fitness,
That's
so
right.
I believe that they should go hand in hand. So if you're focusing on your health, you're going to the gym every day, you got a nutritious plan every day. You eat, like you were drinking something good there, right? You had a drink there. Is that a healthy drink?
It's a little coffee. It's a cold brew coffee.
That's your coffee from your farm.
Actually, this one is not the one from my farm, but yeah. But we do have.
Okay.
Today, I actually had the first cold brew from our farm. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So like you focus so much, and you try to learn about how to become more healthy, and you watch videos about movements, like you watch people like Ido Portal, and how do I do this, and how do I build up my my stamina and my health, but I see not the same thing people they do with their finances. It's kind of it's too hard, I'm right brained, I'm not good with numbers, and then it becomes like, oh, it's something like something hard to do, or it's a mystery.
So Susan, if we were gonna look at the rituals that we would have to have every day, what would be two rituals that we should do regarding to money? What would you say has to happen every day?
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day?
Every day.
Or every week, maybe.
Every week. Okay. All right.
Okay, let's do every week. If you're in your own business, every week you should enter your accounts, your income, your expenses in a good accounting system, and look at your finances. How much money I made this week? How much my expenses? Am I in the red? Am I making a profit, or am I making a loss? Every day, you should also look at your bank account, your business account. Did the clients pay you? You need to look at, if people did not pay you, you should remind them to send you the payment. You should, like ongoingly, at least give half an hour of your time, your business time, to look at your finances, look at your bank account, look at your accounts, and see where your money is coming, where your money is going.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, the other thing is, which I do every second day, is I sit down and do invoices. So I don't leave it till the end of the month. People, like if you've got your own business, you might go, at the end of the month, I'll send the bill to the client. And then by the time the client pays you, it's 14 days later or 30 days later. That's a long time for cash flow.
Yeah.
And in business, they say cash is king. Mm-hmm. So you need to bring the cash in all the time. So my philosophy is, every second day, you should do your invoice. If you finish the service for the client, send the bill out and make sure you get the money in within 14 days. If not, you should have a system where you remind the client to pay you.
Yeah, that's a big problem in the healthcare field, because the insurance companies take such a long time. Yeah, and so you're right. I mean, shortening that cycle somehow, finding ways of shortening that cycle, I think is a great advice.
Yeah, I'm not sure about companies like corporate companies, big companies in the US, but in Australia, you need to know, if you're dealing with big companies, you need to know when their payment cycle is. So you need to pick up the phone and talk to the payables officer and find out when they're going to look at the invoice. Because sometimes if the payment cycle is on the 30th of the month and you send the invoice the next day, they're not going to pay you till 30 days later. So what you need to do is know when the payment cycle is and send the bill all the time. So that they capture it within, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of medium-sized companies do that. Yes.
That's awesome advice, Susan. Susan,
yeah.
And if we were gonna look at if we were gonna watch a movie of your life, what point we would be like, oh my God, would there be one of the points in the movie? Of course, there would be many points, but one of the points in the movie that we would be like, wow.
Say that again. At what point? It's like low.
It's like we're watching a movie. There are some points in the movies that you are like shocked in a way, or moved, and just that you walk out of remembering those moments. And so if we were watching a movie of your life, what is one of these points in the movie at which we would be moved, or wow,
Is that on a personal level or a business level?
Whatever you feel that you want to share with us.
Movie, okay, because I'm a drama queen. It would be when when I was 25 and I just started my business at the time. And I started it part-time while I was working for accounting firms. And I was at the time married, but I was not happy. And I was in the marriage for about 2.5 years. But I wanted to leave that marriage the first 2 months of the marriage. Actually, I wanted to leave 2 months before the wedding, but that's another story. And I remember I was not happy, and I wanted to leave, but because of my religion, my family, I'm Greek Orthodox.
Yeah.
And my mom is Catholic, my dad's Greek Orthodox, and I've got also the Arabic cultural background as well on top. So when you come from the Middle East, it's complicated.
Yeah.
My family said no way, and I was 22 years old, and I wanted to, it was not something that I wanted at all. I felt like I was in prison, and I thought I could live that prison for another 60 years till I die. Yeah. And it would have been when I was 25, 2.5 years into the marriage, that I realized that I got to a point where I realized that if I stayed, I would have been dead anyway. And I realized I was actually a walking dead woman, pretending to be alive, pretending to be somebody I was not, pretending for other people, because it's the family name and the culture and the religion and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when I made that choice, it would have been like, yeah, if you're watching a movie, it would have been, she just walked out of the house, took her bag and walked out. And I knew I was not coming back this time.
Wow.
And it helped me a lot in my life, even though at the time it felt like the worst thing that could ever happen to a woman. And to a woman who was like 25 years old. I was divorced. I had hardly any money. And all I had was this thought of setting up my business and running, I was doing it part-time, but like kind of go full-time in it. That experience of also feeling like I was made, not my own family, but other members of my community made me feel ashamed to do something like that. It was very shameful 20 years ago to do that. I was the first one in my family to walk away. Divorce in our religion and culture and in my family was unheard of. And it was very, very hard for me. But it helped me on two fronts. When I went full-time into my business and went through all these obstacles were nothing compared to the obstacle that I had when I was living double life, living like I should not be in this marriage for 2.5 years and deciding to walk out. That took enormous amount of courage, and it was very, very hard for me. So anything past that, even though it looked hard, losing money in that business venture, losing clients, people walked away, did not pay my fees, someone threatened to take me to court. They were nothing compared to what I had to go through and past it. And it helped. Now looking back, because you gotta look at your life over a decade or two to realize the theme of your life, that's nothing.
Wow.
So it helped me to persevere in my business. That's number one. Because as I said, it's a walk in the park compared to what I had to go through with the divorce and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
For other people in Western countries, you go divorce, that's nothing, Susan. But in my culture, trust me, it was a lot.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I had people who ignored me, like as if I did not exist, like I no longer exist. I had people saying, Susan, no one will marry you now because you're damaged goods, in my culture.
Yeah, no, my roommates were Coptic Orthodox going through medical school, and
Egyptian.
learn a lot of the cultures, and traveling so much, and you realize how the cultures have very
Yeah.
different standards, and you can
Yes.
really be outcasted completely.
Yeah. My people were telling me, you will never get married. No one now will want you. And for a couple of years, I actually believed it.
I bet you
But now I'm the best husband in the world. So thank God, God is good.
that's good.
Yeah. So that's the first lesson I that helped me from that. The second one, what I went through helped me to realize that I'm not the only person who suffered, because I started looking at other people. I started listening to other people's problems, and I've got stories of people who had, they end up with a child with cerebral palsy, or who have got an illness, a terminal illness, and then you start looking at comparing your problem with other people's problems, and it's not that bad.
Right.
So and then so that what that gave me is an ability to feel with other people and be more compassionate. So when people come to see me about their finances, I always have to ask about their personal problems and personal life, which helps me to help them make good financial decisions. So I connected their personal issues with their finances because they're connected.
Absolutely.
So that's how it helped me to share that in the book. This is not your financial life here and your personal life here. No, they're both connected. And I got to see that person as a holistic person. And that helps me to give good financial advice with your personal life in mind. And as a financial planner, this is priceless. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
I
And
feel like I'm privileged that this has happened to me, and I
right.
take that as a blessing, because by doing that, I can help other people, with whatever I went through. And I see people as a holistic person. I don't see them as your financial statements, your numbers, your bank account balance. I see them as a real human being with dreams, aspirations, and issues. So I help a lot of people who come to see me and say, I'm thinking of leaving my husband, Susan. So we go, are you sure about that? Let's discuss that, after 20, 25 years,
Right. And
So,
it's so
so
interesting because you.
I've saved 4 marriages so far.
Oh, goodness. That's awesome. And it's so cool because looking at your story with your father and your mother, really what that
Yes,
friend did was to look at the whole family and say, okay, how
yes,
does everything fit here? And then it
yeah,
helped the whole thing out. And then what you went through, and so it just gives you so much credibility. And so
yeah.
it's just awesome. And so if we were walking down the street and we met the Susan, from before this business, before the book, before the company, and now the business now, how do you think you've transformed?
Oh. Okay, so 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I was self-centered, judgmental, naive, and of course, no business experience. And having business experience is priceless in today's world, whether you're a man or a woman. I was not thinking at the time. I was like, being self-centered, you don't think about others. And I feel like whatever I've gone through in my life helped me to move from being self-centered to thinking about how can I make a difference. And especially now that I have a son, I think about the world in a different way. I really, really think I am privileged to stay alive for that long. I had a couple of cousins who died, one who was 40 years old, and another one 25. And I feel blessed that I'm still alive. So from my perspective, if I'm alive up to this point and I've been left alone, not like chop, what can I do for the next 40 years, God willing, if I stay alive?
Yeah, yeah, you're so
And
right.
it can't be about money. It can't be about only me.
Right.
Once you secure yourself on one side, the main thing is that you got to look at what difference am I making. And most people think, oh, it's something outside of themselves, outside of their environment. I realized it's not. It's the difference I want to make is where God put me. I am here. I am doing accounting, boring, you know. Where can I make a difference from this perspective, from the financial side? But then I looked at my own personal journey and my family journey, and that's where I bring money and personal stuff together, and bring spirituality, because really at the end of the day, we're gonna die one day.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely, Susan. And I see this in the hospital so much when patients,
mm,
um, I guess I kind of go through the same thing as you do. You know, when I see so much suffering in the hospital, people have tragedies, you know, and so I walk out of there and I'm so grateful to be alive still.
yes.
And that if I have 1 day left or 10 years left, that I really have to put them and give value. And why should I go walking? Because I can. Why should I talk? Because I can, you know, because we can do that still, because I haven't had a stroke because of whatever the
Mm.
reason. So I definitely agree with you. And I was looking at something that you were mentioning, um, Jane Austen. Tell us about you, and you read Jane Austen, or
Jane
what are
Austen.
your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts on her?
I think she lived ahead of her generation, and I think she lived 200 years ahead. So when you read her stories, yes, they are all about love stories, and yes, they're all about, you know, rich men finding middle class, you know, women without much money. Um, but what she was trying to tell us is that love cannot be arranged. So if, let's say, you read Pride and Prejudice, and I got a lot of inspiration from her story to help me get through my story, where, you know, the heroine was being pushed by her family to marry her cousin so that they can save the family home. Um, but she refused to do that. So 200 years ago, let's say in the UK, a woman could not inherit her father's estate. So if a man has got 5 children, like in the story of Pride and Prejudice, um, the father has to give the house or the estate that he owns to the first of kin male, not female. So it was the cousin that was going to inherit the estate. So my take on Jane Austen is that yes, she was talking a lot about love, but she was trying to address social issues about the status of women
Mm.
and the legal system. A legal system that would ignore the women, the wife, the daughters, and jump to the first, related male next of kin to own your land, to own your home. I feel like Jane Austen was way ahead of her time to teach us more, not only about love, but also to teach us about equality, and what is the right thing to do, fairness.
And self-advocacy for women, you know, to say, hey, you know, I have a voice, I can do this, I have a right to
Yeah,
this, I have a right to that. And so
yeah.
that's great to hear. And so what's next for you in the next couple of years?
Next couple of years, I want to share my message on a bigger platform. So my money show, it's going to go on video soon. I also want to help people to get financially fit, whether it's through my, online programs or, offline. So right now I've got my online program that people can do anytime. But I want to help people to do that one-on-one in groups. That's something that I want to do, like a big boot camp kind of thing. Yeah, the next 2 years it will be more of that, to help more people. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, Susan. I feel
Yeah.
like it's such a needed. I mean, it's such a needed. I was in the emergency room one time, and this lady, everything had come clear in her test, and I go in there to tell her that everything was clear in her test, and she started bawling, crying, and I said to her, "What? You know what? I don't want you to walk out of here feeling worse than when you came into the emergency room." And she said, "Well, I work in the billing department, and if you put that everything is clear, I'm gonna get a $4,000 check, you know." And so I realized how much interrelation in between, you know, that we have to be interested, you know, for us in the healthcare field, interested in how all of this works, because it affects our patients so much, you know. And it's easy for us to kind of put turn our eye to it, but to bridge with people like you and really realize that it's such a big factor in people's stress and health. And so I love your vision of really giving people peace of mind, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And if people want to check your book out, is at themoneyintelligence.com.au, right?
Yes. Yep. And I'm running my money program in a couple of weeks as well, which is online program. They can buy the book. If they're outside of Australia, they can also buy it as an ebook and download it. So yeah, I'll send you the link.
Awesome. Right on. Well, thank you so much for being here, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.